Have you ever felt a profound, bone-deep exhaustion that has nothing to do with a lack of sleep? It's a weariness of the soul, a quiet ache that comes from the constant, relentless effort of just being, of holding it all together, of waking up each morning, putting on the mask of "I'm fine," and playing a role you never auditioned for, but somehow have been cast in for your entire life. It's the role of the normal person, the one who is capable, resilient, and always okay. The one who navigates the choppy waters of life with a steady hand, never showing the frantic paddling happening just beneath the surface. But inside, in the quiet moments when the world finally shuts up, you feel the strain. You feel the cracks in the facade. And a terrifying question whispers from the depths. Is this all there is? This endless performance? Imagine for a moment a garden. Not just any garden, but a perfect one. The kind you see in glossy magazines. The lawn is a flawless emerald carpet, mowed in perfectly straight, satisfying lines. The rose bushes are immaculate, each flower a perfect crimson swirl, with no sign of black spot or aphids. The hedges are clipped into sharp, geometric shapes, a testament to discipline and control. There are no weeds, not a single one. Everything is in its designated place, beautiful, orderly, and serene. This garden is the envy of the neighborhood. It is the very picture of health and success. But look closer, lean in, feel the soil. It's tight, compacted. It smells faintly of chemicals, of the pesticides and herbicides required to maintain this sterile perfection. Notice the silence. There are no buzzing bees, no fluttering butterflies. There is no chaotic, vibrant life here. This garden doesn't bend in the wind. It resists it, rigid and tense. It is beautiful, yes, but it is profoundly, deeply fragile. One strong storm, one season of neglect, and the whole illusion would shatter. This garden is you. It's the life you've been taught to cultivate. From our very first moments, we are handed the pruning shears. We are taught the rules of acceptable growth. Our parents, our teachers, our society, they are the gardeners. And with the best of intentions, they teach us to trim away the parts of ourselves that are deemed messy, inconvenient, or unacceptable. Cry too loud? Snip. Get too angry? Snip. Express a need that feels too demanding? Snip, snip, snip. We are taught that to be loved, to be accepted, to be safe, we must become this perfect, orderly garden. We must suppress the wildflowers of our authentic feelings, pull out the weeds of our inconvenient truths, and force our growth into shapes that are pleasing to others. We learn to equate this heavily managed artificial self with being good and normal. And for a while it works. We receive the approval we crave. We avoid the discomfort of rejection. We build a life that looks, from the outside, like a prize-winning garden. But the exhaustion you feel? That is the colossal, draining, unending effort of all that pruning. That quiet anxiety humming in the background? That is the silent scream of the wildflowers you've been pulling out your entire life. It is the deep, biological protest of your own nature against this unnatural confinement. The great tragedy is that we are taught to interpret these signs of distress not as a message, but as a malfunction. We think, something is wrong with me. I should be happier. I have a good life, a good job, a family. I should be able to handle this. Why am I so anxious? Why do I feel so empty? We believe the problem is our failure to be a better, more perfect garden. We don't question the gardening itself. If this idea of the hidden struggle behind the perfect facade is already sparking a new perspective for you, take a moment to subscribe to Mind Decode Explained. We journey through these intricate landscapes of the mind together, exploring the path from a place of pruning to a place of authentic growth. The physician and author, Dr. Gabor Maté, in his profound work, co-authored with his son Daniel, The Myth of Normal, offers a radical and liberating perspective on this very crisis. He argues that what our modern culture labels as normal is, in fact, profoundly abnormal and unhealthy. The chronic stress, the pressure to achieve, the constant comparison, the emotional isolation, these are not features of a healthy human existence. They are features of a traumatizing culture. And the rising rates of anxiety, depression, and autoimmune disease are not a random plague. They are, as Dr. Maté puts it, a normal response to an abnormal culture. Your body and mind are not failing you. They are sending you a perfectly logical distress signal. They are telling you that the conditions you are trying to adapt to are in fact unlivable. When we hear the word trauma, our minds often leap to catastrophic events, war, violence, a devastating loss. And these are, without question, deeply traumatic. But Dr. Minds of this events war, Maté expands our understanding of trauma. He speaks of the smaller, quieter wounds, the developmental traumas that happen not because of bad things that happen to us, but because of the good things that didn't happen. It's the trauma of a child who had to consistently suppress their exuberant joy to not overwhelm a stressed parent. It's the trauma of having to become a little adult, a caretaker for your own parents' emotional needs, because your own were never met. It's the wound of realizing, on a deep, unspoken level, that your authentic self with all its messy feelings and inconvenient needs was not welcome. To be loved, you had to be someone else. You had to be good. You had to be easy. You had to start pruning. This creates what psychologists call an attachment authenticity split. As children, we have two fundamental needs: the need for attachment, to be loved and connected to our caregivers, and the need for authenticity, to be in touch with and express our true selves. But what happens when our caregivers, themselves wounded products of this same culture, implicitly or explicitly send the message that our authenticity threatens our attachment? A child who expresses anger might be met with a parent's withdrawal of affection. A child who is sad might be told to stop crying or be strong. The message is clear. The real you, the feeling you, is too much for me. To keep my love, you must hide that part of yourself. For a child, whose very survival depends on that attachment, this is no choice at all. We will, without fail, sacrifice our authenticity to preserve our attachment. We will bury our real feelings, disown our needs, and begin constructing the pleasing, acceptable, normal personality that wins us the connection we so desperately need. This is not a conscious decision. It is a brilliant, unconscious survival strategy. But the parts of us we bury do not die. They are buried alive. And the anxiety, the depression, the chronic pain, the mysterious illnesses, these are the tremors from that buried ground. This is the authentic self, crying out for air. Think back to the garden. The gardener isn't a villain. Our parents and our society weren't trying to harm us. They were simply passing down the only gardening manual they ever knew, the one that was passed down to them. They genuinely believed that a perfectly pruned garden was the safest and best kind of garden to be. They taught us to fear the wildness within because they feared it in themselves. They taught us that the goal was to fit in, to be approved of, to achieve a certain kind of external success, because that's what they were taught success was. They looked at our burgeoning wildflowers, our unique passions, our quirky sensitivities, our inconvenient emotions, and saw them as weeds that threatened the orderly crop they were trying to grow. The great pain comes from realizing that in their attempt to keep us safe, they taught us to sever our connection to our own deepest nature. This brings us to a startling and powerful idea, one put forth by the late psychologist Dorothy Rowe. After decades of working with people experiencing depression, she came to a provocative conclusion: only good people get depressed. This sounds counterintuitive, even absurd. But what she meant was that depression often strikes not the rebels, not the selfish, not those who live life on their own terms, but those who have tried the hardest to be good. They are the ones who fully internalized the rulebook. They are the ones who believed, with all their hearts, that if they just followed the rules, did the right thing, suppressed their negative feelings, and always put others first, then life would reward them. They are the master gardeners of the self, the ones most dedicated to maintaining that perfect, flawless facade. Their entire psychological structure is built on a foundational belief, a belief that psychologists like Melvin J. Lerner have termed the just world hypothesis. It's the deep-seated, often unconscious conviction that the world is a fair and orderly place where people get what they deserve. Good things happen to good people, and bad things happen to bad people. We are fed this from childhood through fairy tales and morality plays. It's a comforting belief because it gives us a sense of control and predictability in a chaotic universe. If I am a good person, if I cultivate my garden perfectly, then I will be safe from the storms of life. But life, as we all discover, is not a fairy tale. The world is not just. Storms come for every garden, the meticulously pruned and the wildly overgrown alike. Tragedy strikes without reason. People get sick. Relationships end. We lose people we love. We fail despite our best efforts. And for the person whose entire identity is staked on being good to guarantee a good outcome, this is a catastrophic blow. When something terrible happens, their mind scrambles for an explanation that preserves their belief in a just world. And since they cannot accept that the world might be random and unfair, they are forced into the only other possible conclusion: it must be my fault. I must not have been good enough. I thought I was being good, but I must have done something wrong to deserve this. The storm came because my garden wasn't perfect enough. This is the very engine of depression. It is a spiral of self-blame, guilt, and shame. The good person doesn't get angry at the world for its unfairness. They get angry at themselves for their perceived failure. They turn their anger inward, pruning themselves with even more viciousness. I should have been stronger. I should have tried harder. I shouldn't feel this sad. They believe their pain is evidence of their inadequacy. The so-called rebel, on the other hand, the one who never fully bought into the just world myth, has a different reaction to the storm. They might get angry, they might grieve, but they are less likely to conclude that it's their fault. They already accepted that life can be chaotic and unfair. Their sense of self is not so tightly bound to a cosmic report card. They are, in a strange way, more resilient because they never expected fairness in the first place. This is what Rowe meant. The good people, the ones who follow the cultural script for normal, are the most vulnerable when that script inevitably proves to be a fiction. Their depression is a state of profound disillusionment, the collapse of a lifetime of trying to earn safety through goodness. One of the most common misconceptions we must dismantle is the idea that turning away from this path of the good person means becoming a bad person. We equate authenticity with selfishness. The moment we consider letting a few wildflowers grow, a terrified voice in our head screams, "No, that's selfish!" If you stop pleasing everyone, if you start saying no, if you prioritize your own feelings, you'll become a monster. You'll hurt people. No one will love you. This is the old survival program kicking in. The child part of us terrified of losing attachment. But true authenticity is not the same as unchecked selfishness. Selfishness is acting without any regard for others. Authenticity is acting with high regard for yourself, including your natural empathy and care for others. Think of the garden again. Letting go of the rigid, sterile pruning doesn't mean letting the garden become a choked, thorny wasteland. It means cultivating a different kind of garden altogether. It means creating a biodiverse ecosystem. A healthy ecosystem has space for the majestic oak tree, the delicate rose, and the humble wildflower. It has boundaries of fence. Perhaps, but within those boundaries, life is allowed to be dynamic and real. Authenticity means learning to listen to your own internal ecosystem. It means acknowledging your anger as a valid signal that a boundary has been crossed. It means honoring your sadness as a natural response to loss. It means allowing your joy to be exuberant and unashamed. It means understanding that your needs are not an imposition. They are a fundamental part of your nature. Being authentic doesn't mean you stop caring about others. In fact, it allows you to connect with them more genuinely. When you are not performing, you can offer them your real presence. When you are not exhausted from suppressing your own needs, you have more genuine energy to offer. Your relationships become less about transaction, I will be this for you, if you will love me, and more about true resonant connection. The other core misconception is that anxiety and depression are signs of personal weakness or a chemical imbalance that simply needs to be corrected. While medication can be a vital and life-saving tool to help regulate a system in crisis, the narrative that these states are just a brain malfunction is a core part of the myth of normal. It conveniently ignores the context. It's like seeing a plant that is wilting and yellowing and concluding the plant is defective, without ever checking if it's sitting in toxic soil or has been deprived of sunlight. As Dr. Maté powerfully states, depression can be seen as a form of grieving for the lost connection to the authentic self. Anxiety is the body's alarm system, screaming that the way you are living is a threat to your own being. These are not weaknesses. They are signs of a sensitive, living organism responding appropriately to an unhealthy and painful situation. To see them as anything less is to do a grave injustice to the wisdom of our own bodies. So we arrive at the great turning point, the moment of breakthrough. It's the day the gardener stands before their perfect, immaculate, and strangely lifeless garden. The pruning shears heavy in their hand, and for the first time they question the entire project. They look at their aching back, their calloused hands, the emptiness in their heart, and they ask the most important question: what if the goal was never this? What if the point was not to create a garden that wins prizes, but a garden that feels alive? What if the measure of success is not perfection, but resilience? Not order, but vitality? This is the aha moment. It is the profound, earth-shattering realization that you are not the problem. The problem is the pruning. The problem is the impossible standard of normal you've been trying to live up to. The problem is the cultural cage you've been trying to adapt to. And in that moment, a new possibility emerges. One that is both terrifying and exhilarating. What if you were to stop? What if you were to put down the shears? This is the core healing insight that Gabor Maté's work offers us. Sometimes, the most intelligent, sane, and healthy response to a sick and stressful environment is not to adapt, to refuse to adapt, to recognize that your anxiety is not a disorder to be medicated away, but a rebellion to be honored. Your depression is not a failure to be happy, but a profound protest from a soul that has been starved of its authentic expression. Your symptoms are not your enemy, they are your allies. They are messengers from your buried self, telling you that it's time for a change. It's time to come home. This journey home to yourself is not about suddenly unleashing chaos. It's not about bulldozing the entire garden overnight. That would be just another form of violence against yourself. The path to healing is gentle, compassionate, and incremental. It begins with one small act of authentic rebellion. It begins with noticing one small wildflower trying to poke its head through the compacted soil and deciding, just this once, not to pull it. What does this look like in real life? It might be as small as someone asking you, "How are you?" And instead of the automatic, "Fine, thanks," you pause, take a breath, and say, "You know, I'm actually having a really tough day." It might be saying no to a request that you would normally say yes to out of obligation. Not because you are being mean, but because you are honoring your own limited energy. It could be allowing yourself to cry without judging yourself for being too emotional. It could be picking up an old hobby you abandoned because it wasn't productive. It could be admitting to yourself, and perhaps to one trusted person, "I am not okay, and I don't know how to be, but I am tired of pretending." Each of these small acts is like putting down the pruning shears for a moment. It's allowing a tiny bit of your true self to see the light of day. And at first, it will feel terrifying. The internal alarm bells will ring. The voice of the inner critic, the head gardener, will scream that you are being lazy, selfish, and foolish, that you are letting everything go to ruin. This is the moment to practice self-compassion, to speak to that frightened part of yourself like a loving parent, saying, "I know this is scary. We've been pruning for a very long time. But let's just see what happens. Let's just let this one small flower grow." As you continue this practice, something miraculous begins to happen. That first wildflower, allowed to live, strengthens the soil around it. It attracts a bee. The next time you let a feeling exist without judgment, it doesn't overwhelm you. It passes, and in its wake, you feel a little lighter, a little more real. The more you connect with your authentic needs and feelings, the more you begin to trust them. You start to see that your intuition wasn't a flaw, it was a compass. Your sensitivity wasn't a weakness, it was a superpower. Your anger wasn't toxic, it was a guardian of your boundaries. You are not fixing a broken machine, you are reclaiming a lost wilderness. You are learning the language of your own soul again. And so, we stand on the threshold of a new way of being. The journey is far from over, but the light has changed. The goal is no longer the sterile perfection of the magazine garden. The new goal is vitality, resilience, and authenticity. We are moving from being a gardener who imposes their will upon nature to one who collaborates with it. Imagine your garden a few seasons from now. It's no longer perfectly manicured. It's a bit messy, gloriously so. The sharp edges of the hedges have softened. Wild flowers have popped up between the roses, their colors clashing in a beautiful, unexpected harmony. There are tall grasses that dance in the wind. The air is alive with the sound of buzzing insects and birdsong. It might not win any awards for neatness. Some might even look at it and think it's been let go. But you know the truth. You know that the soil is now rich and alive. You know that this garden is stronger, more resilient, and more capable of weathering a storm than the old one ever was. It is not just surviving, it is thriving. It is a true ecosystem, buzzing with the energy of authentic life. This is the garden of a soul that is coming home to itself. This process is your life's work. It is not a destination you arrive at, but a continuous practice of tending. There will be days when the old habits kick in, when you pick up the shears out of fear. There will be moments when you judge the messiness and long for the old, simple order. This is all part of it. The key is to meet these moments not with more pruning, but with more compassion. To forgive yourself, and to gently put the shears down again. Empowerment is not about becoming invincible. It's about becoming intimate with your own vulnerability. It's about knowing that you can feel the full spectrum of human emotion. The grief, the anger, the joy, the fear, and that you can hold it all with kindness. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that your worth is not dependent on your performance or your perfection. Your worth is inherent. You were worthy from the moment you began, a wild seed with a unique and beautiful blueprint for growth. The world may not change. The culture of the myth of normal will likely persist. But you will have changed your relationship to it. You will have created a sanctuary of authenticity within yourself. You will no longer be a rigid tree trying to resist the wind, but a field of resilient grasses that can bend, dance, and rise again. So as we leave this space together today, I want to leave you not with a grand solution, but with a gentle invitation. A single, powerful question to carry with you. Look at the vast, carefully managed garden of your life. What is one branch you can stop pruning, starting today? What is one small, tender wildflower of a feeling, a need, or a desire that you have been relentlessly pulling out, that you could, just for today, allow to grow? Don't worry about what it means for the whole garden. Just tend to that one small patch of authenticity. Water it with your curiosity. Give it the sunlight of your non-judgmental attention, and simply watch, with gentle compassion, what begins to blossom. Because in that single, courageous act of letting be, lies the beginning of everything.